If you think about AI, a bit like electricity, we don't need everybody to work in power stations, but we do need everybody to be able to safely use electricity to improve their lives. We built the traffic lights before the cars, and Europeans are already getting second quality rather than top quality digital tools.
Welcome to The Big Question, the series from Euronews where we speak to some of the biggest names in business. Today I'm joined by Matt Brittin, President of Google for Europe, the Middle East and Africa. So thank you very much for joining us, Matt.
Great to be here, thank you.
And a recent Google report found that generative AI could add between 1.2 and 1.4 trillion euros to the EU's GDP within a decade. Can you just explain how is that possible?
People have started to experience generative AI in the form of chatbots, and you can see how that can help you with certain tasks. But actually, as you start to see the next iterations of what these things can do, you start to realize just how much productivity opportunity there is. We work with HSBC on fraud detection, and AI is helping them to find many more potential cases of fraud and therefore increase the quality of services they offer to customers.
The entire tech sector has been quite vocal about the EU needs to do more to harness this growth. So in your opinion, what are the most urgent steps that we need to take?
I'm afraid the EU hasn't done a brilliant job in introducing regulations. We need rules of the road for this technology. Given the pace of change, it's very hard for lawmakers to write laws today that can prescribe what technology is going to be able to do by the time the ink's dry, let alone it's been in place for 5 years. So that means having laws that define sort of responsibilities and principles, and then sort of codes of practice and ways of operating and scrutinizing the technology that help us to keep it safe. What I'd like to see is Europe really grab the moment. If we're slow, then we've got a challenge. And I think, I was speaking to a very senior German business leader in the summer who said to me, the challenge in Europe is we built the traffic lights before the cars. And what they meant by that, obviously, is we haven't figured out how we want to use this technology, but we've already, constrained it. And I think, we see that, Apple and Meta and Google have all slowed down our product launches in Europe following the implementation of the Digital Markets Act, which is rightly there to regulate the larger technology players. But it means that we have to be more cautious, we have to jump through more hoops, and Europeans are already getting second quality rather than top quality digital tools.
Are there any specific industries or sectors that you think are really poised to benefit particularly from AI-driven innovation?
I think health is going to see huge transformations. Our colleagues at Google DeepMind just won the Nobel Prize for chemistry with computer science. So if you're starting some research on a rare disease, you used to have to go and get funding for a load of PhDs to spend 5 to 10 years figuring out the 3D structure of proteins. And there was a database of 175,000 proteins. With AI, in a matter of 24 months, we were able to produce a database of 214 million. And already 2.3 million researchers are using that database that our teams made available free. We're working in energy, so optimizing grids, bringing more renewables online. There's incredible work going on in nuclear fusion. The challenge with nuclear fusion, as I understand it, and I'm not a rocket scientist, is that you've got to have a plasma field stabilized by magnetic fields to kind of sustain the reaction so you can harness the energy. Well, that's hard to do because they're very, very unstable and hard to predict. But what's AI good at? It's good at spotting patterns, making predictions and learning. So applying that to plasma fields, actually you can start to stabilize them for longer. And we're starting to see some breakthroughs there. Now, I'm not saying that's going to be tomorrow, but imagine, clean, low-cost energy for everyone. That's the dream. That's a dream. And that could really change people's lives for the better.
Brilliant. And whilst we're on the subject of AI and work, I thought I'd ask Google Gemini if it can do part of my job. So I asked it what I should ask you today. How can Google better support the European tech ecosystem and foster innovation within the region?
Wow, that's a great question. Thank you, Gemini, and thank you, Hannah. So one of the ways, when I took the job of running Google in Europe and Middle East and Africa 10 years ago, a report landed on my desk in my first week, and it was the EU saying 1 million jobs are going to be unfilled because of a lack of digital skills. And I sort of thought we should be doing something about that. Roll forward 10 years and we trained something like 14 million Europeans, 50-50 male, female, many of them in the tech startup side, but also the majority of them just in the everyday economy. What you can see is when people have got the right skills, then they can harness the technology for good and for growth. So where we've been able to track what people have done after the training, we found that people have gone on to grow in their career, get a new job or start a business. And now we can talk to government about that, and obviously the programs we're doing today are more skewed towards AI and cybersecurity skills, where there's a real shortage.
Yes.
But don't forget, if you think about AI, a bit like electricity, we don't need everybody to work in power stations. But we do need everybody to be able to safely use electricity to improve their lives, and that's the way to think about it.
So being a global tech giant, Google isn't just about AI. Are there any other tech developments that you're particularly excited about in Google's future?
Well, we've talked a lot about Google in Europe for obvious reasons, but I'm also responsible for Google in Africa, and I was in Nigeria and Kenya recently, and it just reminded me of the transformational potential of technology, because in many of the countries there, people are coming online for the first time. So we've just reached the point in Nigeria where I think it's 52% of people are connected for the first time, and it really changes people's lives for the better. And what I think we'll see is some of these countries accelerating faster than Europe.
Yeah.
So for example, in Kenya, I visited a project that we're supporting called Jacaranda Health, and it's working on maternal health. So the death rate through the childbirth process in Kenya is twice the global average. And one of the reasons is access to ultrasound. It's about $70,000, I understand, to have an ultrasound unit, and about 200 hours of training for somebody to operate it. The team out there have got $2,000 units that are handheld, and with our team they've worked on AI so that somebody who's not been trained for more than an hour or two can take an accurate ultrasound scan of a woman, and the AI can help to identify the position and stage of the fetus's gestation. That makes a huge difference. So you can suddenly transform the availability and the reach of the healthcare system.
Absolutely fantastic, yeah. And finally, you soon are handing over your responsibilities after having spent a decade as president and 18 years at Google.
Yes, I was a child when I started.
In that time, what are the biggest changes you've seen and what have you learned?
So when I started at Google, it was 2007, and less than 20% of people on the planet were connected. The people who were connected were on dial-up, and now the vast majority of people on the planet are online, over 70%. So it's a huge change to have all those people connected to the world's information, and overwhelmingly positive change for the world. So transformation of access, transformation of how easy it is to access information and exchange information in your own world, and now we're at a new takeoff point, which is being able to offer the world intelligence increasingly in the tools you use every day.
Well, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to seeing what adventures you have next, and thank you for joining us today on The Big Question.
Anna, thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.